Hey guys, Abby from Motor City Nerds here. Hi to the new subscribers, welcome. I'm happy to have you. Welcome to the Penguin Gang. Yeah, and just like with my Varys video, we all have different headcanon about things, especially when you read a book. It's like we all think about situations and characters. We all visualize a situation differently or a character differently or whatever. And I know I've talked about this before, but just like with every other YouTuber, my earlier videos are really bad and they're still up, but I've gotten better at it. So I'm going to revisit this subject, but I bring it up often because this is just how I always looked at it. And it's, if the Targaryen women would have been allowed to inherit, the house would have never fallen. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who, one, subscribed. Two, I got a ton of really great comments, and some were in, detail, and I love that. And then they're like, oh, sorry for the rant, and I'm like, no, I love it. Tell me more. I appreciate that, and I like it when other people have different opinions about stuff, but somebody said, and they weren't being rude or anything, they were just like, the Targaryens fell because of women, and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, oh, I kind of always felt the opposite. The entire reason that that's the irony of House Targaryen and them never allowing a woman to inherit is that women are the ones kind of doing everything, and the men were kind of just the face that the people remembered or saw. I don't want this to come off like I'm taking anything away from the male Targaryens either, because they're my favesies. I mean, everybody, why is everybody acting like me cheering for Daemon is crazy? I'm like, he's like and now I know people have theories, but he's like a royal version of Bronn from Game of Thrones. He's a jamming character, but I get it, he has his flaws, I understand. But my favorite is Bloodraven, Maester Aemon. I don't want it to feel like I'm taking anything away from the male Targaryens, but like I said, that's the irony of your house falling apart. For starters, way back in the beginning, and you guys know that I like to break things down so that everybody can appreciate something, whether they are an aficionado or they're just a casual watcher of the show. Anyway, way back in the day, before Westeros existed, there was Valyria, and that's why everybody with the white hair and the purple eyes, and that's why it's like, oh, Valyrians, they're a big deal. Now, everybody and their brother had a dragon in Valyria. Not everyone, but a lot of people had dragons, okay? They weren't an anomaly, is what I'm saying. House Targaryen had a woman in it who had a dream and is now known to history as Daenerys the Dreamer, that there was going to be an apocalypse situation and they needed to get the hell out of there. Now, the Targaryens were lucky enough that they had the first, you know when Ned says we're from the first men? That's because they were the first ones over in Westeros. That's a whole other thing, but that's why they call themselves the first men. And so Valyrians, they are not the blood of the first men. You get what I'm saying? But they did trade with Westeros and had a good relationship with them. And this family did. And they were lucky enough to have essentially a summer home built on an island close to Westeros, which is now Dragonstone, which is where Stannis is at in the show. And Daenerys, when she comes home, that's where she lands. That's Dragonstone. That was their summer house. They had they would go and visit when they were doing trade and chit-chatting it up with Westeros, okay? So Daenerys the Dreamer has this dream. She's like, we gotta get out of here. It's gonna get bad. They dip out. They are the only ones to survive the doom of Valyria because of this. Everybody else dies off. So other families had dragons, but the Targaryens were the only ones to survive the doom of Valyria, and they were the only ones left with dragons in the world, which allowed them to create an empire. They didn't start to do that till later on. I'm talking about way before Aegon the Conqueror, way before everything. This woman is the reason that your house even existed to create a dynasty. So I always thought that was kind of ironic. Then we'll get more into it. Let's fast forward to Aegon's conquest, Aegon the Conqueror, the first Targaryen to take over and create the Seven Kingdoms as one. He's on Dragonstone, and one day he's like, do you want to know what? Let's take over there. Why shouldn't we? We should rule. We have dragons. They always say that he married both of his sisters, Visenya, the older sister, and Rhaenys. And it was said that he married one out of duty, the older one, Visenya, and he married the younger one out of love. And that was the one that he liked more. And that's why I root for Visenya and her cause a little bit more, but we'll get into that another time. Either way, they're the ones that conquered the Seven Kingdoms and made it become one country, okay? The kicker with Aegon the Conqueror, and I have nothing against Aegon the Conqueror, he does some awesome stuff, he's really cool. I think Ormond Baratheon is my favesies, but that's a whole other thing. But after they made the Seven Kingdoms one, Aegon was so busy going from big house to big house to big house and being seen by the people and reminding people who's in charge. He was kind of just the face, okay? Everybody thought, oh, Aegon the Conqueror, and he'd fly in on his dragon. I'm not getting into the war and everything. I'm not getting into the conquering part. We're fast-forwarding to I'm already king and everything's here. While he was doing that, which is still very important, he was kind of like a show pony a little bit. But while he's doing that and reminding everybody who's in charge and everything like that, Visenya and Rhaenys, his sisters, were the ones in King's Landing establishing currencies and ports and cities and laws and things like that. So it's like both are very important, but who's really running this? It's like the sisters were the ones actually like making stuff. And like I said, Aegon the Conqueror is very important, and doing what he did was still very important. But that's the ironic part. So to me, it was just always very ironic that it's like, oh, these two are essentially running everything, and you're just flying around reminding everybody who's in charge, and it's us. And I always really like that. Also, Visenya created the King's Guard, which is the white cloaks, that the 7 that protect the king. Visenya created that because she told her brother Aegon, your protectors suck, watch me get right through them. And she does, and she cuts his cheek open with her awesome sword, Dark Sister, and Daemon will have it in House of the Dragon, it'll be awesome. And then she's like, see, I got right through them. You need to have better fighters around you to protect you. And she creates the King's Guard. And it's not really important politically to have the King's Guard, but I just wanted to remind everybody because Dark Sister and Visenya are the best. But I'm sure there are a lot of other instances, but I'm going to fast forward to the Dance of Dragons, which is going to be the conflict that they're setting up in the new show, House of the Dragon, on HBO. So fast forward a couple hundred years to the Dance of Dragons, which is going to be on the show, or at least setting it up, and I'm going to have a whole other video talking about why I think that's a problem. But anyway, and we're skipping over Rhaenys, my favesies, the queen who never was. She also was next in line, and they were like, no, we think we should just have a different boy instead of you, who would be a great ruler. And it's like, okay, that was stupid. But we have the Dance of Dragons happen. Now, the Dance of Dragons is like a civil war between the country, and it absolutely decimates the Targaryen family. It's why they end up falling out of power later. They never truly recovered, and that's just facts. But we have that conflict. And now that was, this king said, hey, I've been raising her to rule, I've been training her to rule, she's going to rule, she's going to be my heir when I die. And all these lords are like, yep, we'll do that. And after he dies, his new wife that he got, she says, I want my kids on the Iron Throne. And so then the lords are like, well, we like a boy. So they're like, let's back her and her son. And then some are like, no, we're going to stay loyal to what the king wanted, and we're going to fight on her side. And so it's family versus family, neighbor versus neighbor, and it decimates the country, and the Targaryen family never truly recovered after, and never had dragons the same way again. But I also think those dirty maesters and the high towers had something to do with killing the dragons, but that's a whole other subject for a whole other time. If they just would have allowed a woman to inherit a long time ago, that wouldn't have happened. So I'm like, okay. But you could also say they kicked this off and it's their fault. I mean, there's definitely ways to argue that. But here's my final big thing, is during Aegon's conquest, when Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters were conquering, there was one house that never lost to the Targaryens. There was one house that never knelt to them, and that was House Martell in Dorne. Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. That's why that's their words. They never had to kneel to the Targaryens. They never lost to the Targaryens. The Martells straight outmaneuvered them and killed Queen Rhaenys and her dragon and sent their heads back to King's Landing and were like, nice try. Try it again. And they still never knelt to the Targaryens. They ended up marrying in. That's how they became a part of the fold, and that's why their words are that way. It's because they never had to submit to them. They married in. Now, I'm sure you're going, why are you bringing up House Martell? We're talking about Targaryens. Okay. What's the one house in Westeros that allows women to inherit? House Martell. While they straight up murked Queen Rhaenys and her dragon, who was in charge? The Yellow Toad of Dorne, which was a woman. And it's like, okay, I see what you did there. And I always kind of just thought, like, that's the ironic part with the Targaryens, is like, if you guys just would have gotten over the whole, like, you gotta have a wiener thing, you guys wouldn't all be obliterated by the time we get to Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, you know what I mean? So that's the kicker. And that's what I always thought. But then, like I said, I got this comment and I was like, oh yeah. And then just like with my Varys thing, I was like, oh, I wonder who else feels this way and who else sees it differently, because that's how I've always felt about it. I'm like, oh, I see what you did there, George. I see what you did there. You see how these ones allow it and they're still around and they never had to kneel to them? Maybe they should have taken a note from them. I always have fun doing these. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I've been streaming Kingdom Hearts 2 and it's just been fun. I just like I don't stream a lot of games, but when I do, it's just fun and I have a good time doing it. And now I forgot how good 2 was. I really did. I really forgot how great it is. But yeah, I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Hi to the new subscribers. I've got reactions uploading. I've got all this other stuff uploading. Oh, go over to Movie Lovers Unite and check out our reaction to Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe Netflix movie trailer. That was a lot of fun. I always appreciate when John lets me come on. Oh, and we did a video about everything we're pumped for Phase 5 and 6. So yeah, go check those out. And welcome to the Penguin Gang if you're new. We have a good time over here. And House of the Dragon, man, it's coming.